Okay, in page Kufain Halef. So we are discussing the union of Yesh. The last thing he spoke about Yesh Me'ayin. Why it's called Yesh Me'ayin? Everything came from the Eibush to the Eibushter. So what do you mean Me'ayin? Not from that. So the answer is because the Koyach Haleki which creates is only a Alma. It's only a what do you call it? Shine. A radiance. It's not the image itself. It's bottle. In fact, the way it's techa mocker. Like so we are like how many lines? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines on the top. זהו, אמרנו גדולוס, שם אתה מצד לסנוסה, שאני לא משפט, שים אותם עד זהו גדולוס. The goddess and the Eibush, like do as a nice operation, the koyach, the to create is only to and when the sanusa to the insof, to the tzimtzum. Shalgabe insof, and yet into mine, gam can hakap has beetle with that. From the Eibush's perspective, the tzimtzum doesn't conceal anything. And even after the tzimtzum, everything is but like gam any voim, gam is a magic. Okay, you could yesh mine. So that's why it's called Yesh Ma'ayin, because the Ayin, the Madrig, the Koyach Haleki creates is bottled, and in order for it to create, that's to it Tzimtzum. In the Vedesha, it Tzimtzum Shachasavas Havasayam was before Sabriya, or is open as the source of the Satam Tzadats. The first time when the Eibush created the world, how did this happen? So it was his own initiative. But now, after the creation happens, in order to continue to be renewed, we need also we need the work from the matter. We need our own input. And also, what is the purpose of creation? To be the ultimate kavan of creation of our days. To be matched of the way it was different. So we also and the shiur of that amshach to be matched of shlifnet and tzimtzum is not place which is even higher than the shlifnet tzimtzum. Shaizel and tzimtzum is amshach is outside. What is this guy going first? The first hour that's our it was limited, it was constrained, and but the ultimate purposes should be mamshir the insof itself. In order that to happen there, then the shamas is so. So what brings down the Yamshach into this world from such a madrig which is above there in Sof, that's the Shamas Soda. The Shamas see what Ipal Bafinish was Chaim, but Alter says in tiny page base. Then the Shamas is by Ipal Bafinish time, they wish to blue in other marriage. Ish was Chaim was mad in Upach, that was in Upach. The expression that the Alter is in tiny. It's one of these expressions that the source wasn't found yet. It's brought in earlier this forum before the Alter Rebbe also, but it's like it's supposed to be in one of these parts of the Zayah that didn't reach us. That man enough, I'm taking up. When you blow from the inside. Which means it's a marshal, obviously. Maybe it doesn't blow. What does it mean? The man the church on the Shama is who matters in Tzabbo. The ultimate source of the Shama is in Atzvus. Yoda matters actually goofing. So the Neshamas are the Memutzoyim to which the Amshachas Atzvus nimshach in this world, in the goof. Because what is so. But earlier this was And he asked a few questions. What is Mao Va'ato? In the beginning of the Bible. Also, Mao now he's going to explain. Because it says that the Eden are like avodim, they're servants. What happens in the marshal, in the service, when a servant serves his master? What does it mean? That the servant fulfills the needs of the other doesn't have. The master is lacking things, and the servant fulfills it for him. Alamilo, is a shachklal. You can say that the Eibishter needs a servant to fulfill his needs. The whole concept doesn't exist. The Antishlamot of the Kula. The Eibishter is the ultimate perfection. What's meant the servant fulfill the Eibishter's need? Mashlim, he makes him whole. Here are shares. The Bichdesha Odin Yased, and I'm sure I think there's a word missing here. Sha'odin Yased, maybe it means Sha'odin Yased Odin. In order for the Odin, the master, which is the Eberstein, in order actually he should express himself. So the word Yased is a little vague. That the Odin should express himself, that's to the avoid of Neshamas soul. That again, the Eberstein doesn't need. You can't say he needs the shleimus. He's the ultimate perfection. Elamai, in order for the Odin to reach his goal, he is v'yam shachas ha'oyer. That's everything Neshamas soul. He doesn't really. It's not. There's no real clear answer here. The Eberstein is perfection. What does he need the ever? So in other words, you just use the word yas. Yes, it's a little. I mean, look. This mime was very kitzur, especially what it says in other places. Okay, we all know that there's Misava Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Eibishter wanted to reach this world, and that this is the mean. The means is to avoid the sword. Why does it say twice avodim avodeim? Which yes, based on the Eved. So there's two types of Eved, like we say in okay. So this is really Samachov. The whole Samachov is the Miknah Samachov talks about this concept. Sheesh based on the Eved. There are two types of servant. Aleph Eved Poshet has is the simple servant that does very low grade tasks. So we're talking about the mash. Certain things that the servant does, the simple servant does work for the master. It's below the honor, it's below the stature of the master to be involved in. Marshal is chopping wood. So what do you get for it? A simple servant, a supposed servant, he's working hard to do things like chopping wood. For what purpose? He needs to get a salary. So he does something very low grade. He's because he doesn't have money, so he works hard to do these simple tasks like Tivas 8. The Rebbe once said in the Maimon that this concept of Chativas 8 as a mashlan, something that's very that is the lowest grade work. First of all, in Pasuk it says when the Pasuk Nitzavim describes the lowest level of action. Somehow I don't know. It's the lowest grade is called the Chtiva 6. Okay. And also the Rama Meir Levuchim, he wanted to bring a dogma that the Eivishter wants us to do mitzvahs without any purpose. And according to the people who think it's purposeless, he says it's like someone chopping wood. It's interesting, much like chopping wood, a dogma of a very low grade test. Sometimes forget, sometimes the Chativas Eitzim, Kabbalah talks Eitzim, it's a das, it's a high, but the simple term, after Eitzim is like the lowest grade one. Evet base, then there's another Evet is Evet Sha'is V'Loch Sh'Adam Yatzis. Evet, that's the type of Evet that does tasks that the truth is the master itself would do it. I mean, give us Margolius. Interesting that Rabbanim takes, because in those days, I guess, yeah, it's a marshal and a concept. So the marshal that the Phyllis brings is in the Kivas Margolis Rabbanim takes. You make holes in pearls to make it into a chain, or polishing diamonds. So I guess in that particular relative to chopping wood, that was considered a very high grade type of test. And the truth is, the master himself would do it, but he delegates it to his servant. But it's not something just below the dignity of the master. I don't know if it applies today, that marshal, that type of maybe relative. I don't even know.
It's a course, you know. It's not a fine job. I think that's what compared to.
Yeah, it's a more fine job than chopping wood. You have to pay more attention. You have to be more subtle. I guess in today's world, we will bring different types of examples of the difference between a low grade job and a high grade job. That's the example that's Chassidus brings always. But something more important, the Asik Master, business. Okay, so that's already something which we can relate a little more. To be a businessman versus being an actual wood chopper. Okay, that we can see. That the truth is the master will do that. Can also do business. But instead, he delegates it to his servants. It's not a servant that does something that the master is below the dignity of the master to do. It's just the master delegates them. Avdoi remember the lesson, avodim avodai. There's Eved and Avdoi. Stam Eved is the low grade servant. Avdoi is his servant. That's a higher grade. That's something that is that is on the same level as the Odin, so to speak. He replaces the Odin. Just the Odin delegates a job to him, which he would do himself. So that's the point here. The two types of effort. But Dugmam is there, Yuvan Mashkasa Bezoya. So the Zoya also talks now. Obviously, this was a mush. What's the name? Because of that, Shesh Kama Madrigas Ev. Shikosu. It says in Pasuk, Aisha Avdacha was, let me find the Pasuk. Right now, my mind will wax. The Pasuk. So it's a, let's see the Pasuk. So it says in Pasuk two psukim. First it says Tefillah R'Dovid Hashem Oznacha Neini Kioni VeEvinoni. That's step one. Shama Navshki Chazidoni Oisha Avdecha Atelikai V'Teichel. So he says that these two psukim really represent these two types of avodim. So Kioni VeEvin, because the difference is only VeEvin. That's the Evet Posh. He's a poor Evet who just does for the Odin the log rate tests. That's the higher level. That's so what it says. The sense that the Zoya, it doesn't even say what the Zoya said. It's the only thing there is the pus. So the Zoya says that these two psukim represent two madrigas in Ev. So the first madrig in Evet, the Evet Pashut, what they call Evet Pashut, the Ani ve'Evion, that is Lamshach Knesah, the Ismakel Elam, Shem Drink with Shem Odin, and they read the Lamshach Kanal, Lavach the Malkit, the Shem Mediate. So the first test that the Eivishter wants, we said earlier that the Avodayim, the Eivishter's Avodim, the Eivishter's servants, what exactly, what do we perform, which test? The test is La'amshach ha'or is Makal to be mamshach, to draw down this ha'or that we spoke about earlier, the early kiss, to create the elements, so that's a level of it's not above below the dignity of the Odin himself, of the master of the Eberster, which means that canal, this whole idea of creating a world and being in this world is it's below his dignity, it's a descent. And brings in another Maimah Chazal, just that we didn't bring earlier, Lav Ocha the Malta, the Ishtad Miladiata. It's an expression in Chazal, I'm aware. So it's not not the custom of the king to discuss mundane things, which means it's below his left power. So the avodas Hashem, the Eved, who's mamshat this hour lekit, the low level, he's called Eved Oni. He's called like a poor master Bolskor, just gets his salary. Gam del tiu kavodim amsham shemesarav amgal takabel pas. Doesn't answer the question. He said, it starts to say, it says in Mishnah, our purpose in Avodas Hashem is not a Kabul pass. So why do we say that in the Kabul Schar, that the meaning of Schar doesn't fit what a Mishnah is? Altir Kavodim Shantas. Neklos Am Shachar Shlot Sarim must take a pass. That's his answer. He don't say. He doesn't answer the Mishnah yet here. I guess he leaves that up to us to decipher this question. I think basically it's maybe it says a gam, but maybe that's like a pshat that's a pshat in the Mishnah. Al tiyu kavodim, ela yu kavodim. This to avodim, al tu madrigas never. They're not positive things, but al tiyu means you should go to the higher level. It doesn't say clear, but I think that's the implication, because it says that in equality I'm shachot tzavim is nika pras lashon posuk mishkot makamach. So a couple of pras here means again, a couple of pras doesn't mean the schar. The schar is that gufa, the dam shachar. Dam shachas chayes aleki, which is the lower level. That's dam shachas. That means pass. So the schar, so that was in the nimshal, in the marshal of the Ani, he does one thing and he gets paid with unrelated to what he did. It's the marshal. The nimshal, that is the schar. That is the schar is he does his work, and the schar is that there's amshach of the amshach alikis. Like I said, he doesn't explain why I'll to you, but I think I think that the implication is that these two avodim in the Mishnah, the two madrigas and Eved, said Al means don't satisfy itself at the lower level of favor to go to the higher level. Hamshachas, okay, but he doesn't go further. Now he goes to discussing what is the avodah. The avodah of Hamshachas zu idea avodah tefillah. This Hamshachas we're talking about, which is Hamshachas the shalatzayich ha'elamet, Hamshachas early key to avodah, Hamshachas the tzayich ha'elamet. That's the concept of tefillah. The inner tefillah cycle. The concept of davening is described in the sources in Tanakh as tzaka, screaming. Which because of vayitzak ol Hashem. It says vayitzak ol Hashem and which ksiv tzak libam al Hashem. What does tzaka mean? In a tzaka bo me'ezah davar nifla ma'oi. A scream is a result of an abnormal experience. When someone It's an example. When you scream in wonder, you see something which is such an abnormal, you start screaming. That's impossible. Also, Newton said, well, then he gives us a full line to describe another way. You come in a situation, somebody says a blatant lie, so that makes you scream. Interesting. When you come in a situation, somebody else says something which is the opposite of the truth, and it's an obvious falsehood, lie. So that causes the listener, the person who heard it, to scream. Should say, because how can you scream? How can you lie like that? If something is obvious, something is so true to you, it's so obvious to you, you cannot tolerate the opposite. So psycho is an expression of the intolerance in the positive sense. It can't tolerate a lie. It can't tolerate a falsehood. So according to this understanding, the tefillah, the psycho of tefillah is really an expression of discomfort, of intolerance of something which is not true. Hein gvur is the ab. It wasn't a Kabbalistic term. Gvur is the Abba. Abba means Chachma. Chachma is what is Chachma? Chachma is the way we perceive a likus, like in Tanya, ultimate perceive a likus. Gvur is the Abba means the judgment. What is the judgment? When a person is in a state of Abba, he sees godliness clearly, and all of a sudden somebody comes and contradicts him and says and says, you know, he denies godliness. So that creates gevurah, and Abba screams. No, it's not true. So the screaming really, the psyche of tefillah is really an expression of very strong, what you will call discomfort, even modern discomfort. We call it very strong objection. So he brings like what I just said. What was the Abba? He gives it a little more explanation. A person says, so this again, the simple pshat means you see the future, you look ahead. But Chassidus explains what Ois Hanel means. Ois Hanel mainly is that Chacham sees in everything, in everything he experiences, how all this was created from to the Eibishter, mainly yesh. He recognizes, the Chacham recognizes that nothing can be created on its own, by himself. Koyach Elikim Ahava. And he recognizes.
I'm sorry, is it Nolad the future, not the past? Aroet and Nolad is now where is coming from, or what's gonna be outcome?
You're talking about the simple pshat or pshat in the mind. The simple pshat is you see the future, you see the outcome, right? See the future. But Chassidus says, now this means you see everything around you was created. You see that it's not something that's been there on its own. That's Chassidus pshat. But he says here that you recognize that nothing comes on its own. But and he sees with his mind's eye the koyach haliki creates everything. And he recognizes that the creation is all really bottom of the sea, below it, because nothing has any power without the Eibishter. And he also sees the koyach in sof. But when the world around him denies the koyach haliki, that creates the scream, batzar. So it says that the meaning of tzaka, sometimes, and I think it's psukim, it says that tzar, that it makes a person very what is the word? A tight. Bifad in nimshach chulu. Especially if doesn't say what especially if I don't know nimshach chulu. If there's amshach malmal. So this feeling of tzaka, what is the answer? What is the cause for it? Because the person sees a likus. But when a person's seichel is very crude, and because he has a low level of neshama, gases aruach, and he has gases aruach, his spirit is very crude. And he's captured by materialism, materialism especially to the makif in the clip. What that conceal the mark of the kedusha. So what happens? In other words, how do you reach this cycle? How do you reach this proper way of davening? It's only through Kabbalah Efshi. It's mamish written as a remes himself. But okay, we'll try to decipher all the mazim. Efshi, that's the Gemara says, Al Yoima Odom, E Efshi, the Psar Chazir, El Efshi, Ma'asa Sha'or V'Shem Gazal. That it's not that he doesn't want to do evil things because he understands, he doesn't feel that it's bad. No, it's only Kabbalah said. That's a state that is mevatel, it nullifies its own interest. The state, the yoke, and forcing himself. Only that way destroys the Rotzen, the foreign desires. So again, so there's now he goes a little more detail. The Efshin, like I said, the Chazal say Al Yoima Adam Efshin Psar Chazir El Efshin Ma'aser Sha'avi Shabayim Gazal. But there's a famous word in the alternative means from the Magid, that only applies to tzaddik. While in Tshuva, I have to say efshi. Why? Because about Tshuva, it's better you should, because he's used to evil things, so it doesn't say you should find any way to avoid it. It's better you should say efshi, even if it's not Kabbalah stuff. That's the sense of simple. But in Amaimer, it says that efshi and efshi are really two levels of the way a person relates to avodas Hashem. Efshi means that the efshi is a result of our avodah, which is b'moyach v'lev. Person, his mind and his heart are involved in the likus. Mainly efshi tzachazir. Tzachazir is just a mush. Mainly cannot connect the evil because in his mind and his heart he understands and he feels that he wants to connect to the Eibishter. That's efshi. Vutik pnimid klip. Ruach be'oratov. So to the day of efshi, what level of klip are we relating to their pnimi? So in other words, the klipper comes and the klipper is pnimi of klipper tells you that this is good for you. You're going to enjoy it. It's a good taiva, and you overcome it by recognizing that it's not good for you. Because the Meichel tells you that the kedusha is better. Ruach bi'oratov. So that is the in a way the low level. But efshi, mashenken to the avoid of efshi, ma esa shabav shabayim goes all right. Rag v'derach oil tikkun oil malchus oil makim the kli. So the Kabbalah's oil of efshi will reach a much higher level. The tikkun of oil makim. Al deizem mamshichem l'maylo lis atzimtzum. Okay, he brings in another point here. Sometimes Phyllis says that the two art that's a new tap that the Eibishter, everything the Eibishter does kamayim upon him. The fact that the Eibishter is mitzamtzim himself, limit himself in order to reach. We should be able to recover from him. Is really a result of it's a kamayim upon him. Because the person is mitzamtzim himself, he stays away from his tyrus, he breaks himself, Kabbalah soil, so that causes the mila that seems to the Eibishter Kaviyachol should also constrain himself, limit himself, and reach out to us.
I'm sorry, the Rosh Tevis is Al Hatzad?
Yeah, Silik Al Hatzad. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Zeo Inyan. So that is, see, all this is explained. Remember, all this is to explain the first Madriga, the Eved. The Eved, remember, we said the Eved Pashut, what's his purpose? His purpose is in the Nimshal, the Amshech Amshach Hashechas Leilamis. So the Eved Pashut, he does, that's the Kabbalah soil. He's in the state of Kabbalah soil, breaking the Makib the clip, and that in turn is the pilot symptom of the mile, the Eibishter limits himself and the Nimshach Lamat. When it is Nimshach Lamat, but the Sheikh of Zesh, and is that Nimshach Lamat seems. That is the first level. And the Nimshach Lamat is the Eibishter sending the Neshama down in order that the Neshama should do the Avodah of Kabbalah soil, and to the Avodah of Kabbalah soil, Nimshach Lamat, the Oyer Shali Deat seems. זהו עניין לעיר, בחינת עיר התתו. So now that's how he explains the pasuk. That's לעיר, עיר means עיר התתו, קבל זמן השמיים. אחר כך לעבר, then it says, right in the pasuk, לעבר is שזהו עניין, שמאיר רחם ארבע על נפשו. ליעקב שפד הסבו. That's a big. There's Ava and there's Rachmi. And it says the Yaakov Hashapad Savam, the Rachmi brings out the Ava. The Eibishter, when a person is Rachmi Alatzmai, that itself brings him to the state of Ava. This is This is the first Eved. But the Lechas Bidrochov, that is the Lechas Bidroch. What is Lechas Bidroch? Remember, we just said in the Mashal. Mashal, the Eved, the second Eved, he's not doing the simple tasks. He just is like he's like a sort of helper to the master. And the Nimshal in Avodas Hashem, that's Alechas B'Dochav. It's not that you're doing something that the master wouldn't do himself. You're doing what he does. Alechas B'Dochav. So that the second Madrig is Merumas in the words of Alechas B'Dochav. Or ever that base. She'is a davar sha'adam atzmei oisa. V'hu inyan kol orches havaya. Der havaya reis v'chachma hagduma v'yod alamat. So, I just read another few words. We'll go back to the side what it says. So the land was shined when the Torah came down. Alichas Olam Loi says Antik Alichas Alachas that the Olam became a higher level. Zel Alichas B'Dochav Halidei Torah La'am Shagil Yosef Lamata V'Laved Abay Deshuvah. So basically, what if it's mamish remes sheberemes, point it's making is that we have the two madrigas and Eved, the way you describe it now, is really tefillah and Torah. Tefillah is the lower level of Eved, that the tzaka, which is the tzaka in a place which he also somehow turned the Kabbalah soil. The tzaka, he says, that's the Kabbalah soil. So somehow the Kabbalah soil and the tzaka come together. So the tefillah is the level of Kabbalah soil. The tzaka, that's the first Eved. And Torah, that's the second Eved. That is his task is to be mamshech halikus in this world, not the Kabbalah soil, but the level of Hamshachas HaTorah. V'zeo v'ato. So now he asked the question, what does v'ato mean? V'ato is what's v'ato? No, v'ato. V'ato means bismat, the fifth alpha shnit. Okay, interesting answer. That the time that we live here, at the time that we exist, the shit alpha shnit, that's what Eivishter wants. Okay. The soul, that the Eivishter created the world. The Eivishter created the neshamas, the act, in order to be mamshach likus in this world. And there are two parts, like we said, the Eved Posh and the Eved and the other Eved. That's the thing. Some Hori calls them Eved Nema. Over here he calls them Eved, yes, Oni and Osh. Eved Oni and Eved Osh. That's really the language that's used in other places. That is the Eved Osher, that's a tefillah and Torah. To that, we mamshach likus, we mamshach the level of likus, are that tzimtzum, then the ultimate thing we mamshach, the higher level. The zeo anila doiti. Now it goes back to the pasuk anila doiti. Elul zman tshuva. Elul is the time of tshuva. V'yesh tshuva that Torah tshuva lo. It's in tshuva there are two levels, tshuva that Torah and tshuva lo, which is really the same two madrigas we just spoke, tefillah and Torah in a way. Tshuva that Torah lo shavadach v'lo tev. Tshuva that Torah is to return from his evil deeds. But tshuva yirak etzad ha'yos nafsha ha'richot, what did they give? The tshuva that Torah is a result of the bitterness the person feels to himself because of the distance from the Eivishter. Well, they give it not because he feels inspiration. It's more negative feeling. Because he feels such a strong distance from the Eivishter, he regrets it and he nullifies his own interests, his own desires, and the shviras etzem ha'otz nara. The ira tato or tshuva tato and in echad. So that's the same thing you said earlier. Ira tato which is Kabbalah soil, it's the same kind of tshuva. Now, the difference is, Kabbalah soil, shaloyech, both of them come from the same place. The difference is, one is before, it prevents you from sinning. That's Kabbalah soil. The ear of Kabbalah soil. And the Tshuvat Torah is, if Chas v'Shalom you did sin, so you reach that place of Tshuvat Torah, you break it, and you go back. You regret. So this is the two parts. He has the question at the beginning of the mind. It says, what is the catch? So the two parts is the tshuva, and Shoshanim is Shoshanim Balach is the Torah. What is the connection? So now we understand. Shoshanim Balach is these two parts are Avodas Hashem, the Eved, the Eved Kosh, the Eved Oni, the Eved Osh, which is Tefillah and Torah. So so these two stages are really expressed in the same pasuk. That's the third Tefillah, that Tzaka, the Kabbalah soil. And Aroi B'Shani Ba'alocha is Linalach Sidocho. Allah Shani Ba'alocha is that's the Limud Torah. That's the Indian of the Eved Osher. Like I said already. So that's the Indian of the Gilei from Torah. Yeshloima Shazayna v'Yaakov Olach L'Daka Achar Akiva Sh'Madai is. That's also Malum is the fact that we say after Tisha we always say Yaakov Olach L'Daka, but because the way of Tisha is the way of Tshuva. After Tisha, after Tshuva we have Olach L'Daka, which is the Alich, L'Alechas B'Doch. So this is a short mimer, but very, very written, very remedy.
Rav David, we have to say Korakot to Rav Mendel, but he probably slept 4 o'clock and last night after the Chasana, and now he's back here at 7 o'clock. Shikora and Mazel Tov.